Hello, this is Rose and Sword, an essay I wrote by Terry Bale, and that's me. My daughter and I, she was about 18 years old. I counted it up the other day. About 18 when she and I had a conversation, and interesting things we found. And we talked on other occasions too on the same subject. And I ended up writing down things that we found and other things that just came along as I was writing. As it is, I've gotten to page 20, and I'll start there. I was in the last one, I think it was page 19 and 20 is what I had done last time. Uh, and this outside, I discovered that if I lean to one side, if I get out of the way, then it shows you the pretty back there, the tree outside the window. And I just like the, what do you call those? The pretty colors that when the sunlight comes through the prisms. Prisms. So that's all the reason why that's up there. But so I don't know if somebody else does it for some other reason, but I do it for the pretty colors and the sunlight and the sparkle. And there's silk flowers, and there's some real flowers right there. There's the geraniums. They're real. And a potted plant there too, and the other one. So that's all, and I better get to reading this. Rose and Sword by Terry Bale. That's me. So, pages 19 and 20, I was explaining about my friend and how I got to visit her because she was in the hospital, and how different it is visiting in person than just calling on the phone. Whereas calling on the phone is very useful, especially if you can't get there. Very, very good if you can't, especially if you can't get there. But if you can get there, don't let anything stop you. Try get there, because person to person is so much fuller, so much amazing and better. Then I go on to say, which this part I haven't read to you yet, and this part my hair is sticking out. Oh. But believe me, I know the flip side of things very well. I'll turn it this way. All right, turn me? I don't know. I know the flip side of things very well, like how scary it is to speak face to face, and to get vulnerable, and to invest a lot of time and energy in something that comes with no guarantees. Besides, it's also possible to plastic wrap the event by putting on a show, or not staying long enough to get past the pleasantries, and thereby to miss a major part of the life-giving possibilities and benefits. Yet any real effort toward real life and real connection is bound to yield some fruit. But then again, I am reminded that too much water, because I realize that visiting face to face is like water. But that's where life comes from. That's what supplies life. Without water, everything goes dead. But with water, likewise, with reaching out to each other, person to person. But then again, I am reminded that too much water, or polluted water, can actually be devastating. So I guess we'd better be sensitive about staying way too long in visiting, and about what aspects we allow into our visits. Because such pollution as criticism, or complaints, or dumping all our cares on someone, or even false shows of kindness, or neglecting the other person's need for rest, can truly harm the relationship instead of improving it. I have to change pages. I suppose that's partly why a person often feels kind of emotionally mined out or out of breath after visiting someone, because just giving the event the attention it needs in order to not overstay or overstep boundaries can take something out of you. It's like running a race or lifting weights. You've lost energy and done a lot of work, and temporarily you feel worse off for the venture. But with the exercise, you'll find that you've actually gained strength and skill, such as you could get no other way. And though, as I've mentioned, these things come with no guarantees, still, it so happens that there are guarantees. They just aren't written on the circumstances. They're written in the Bible. But really, that makes sense, because God is the creator of life. So it makes sense that he would talk about, encourage, and guarantee this life stuff in his writing. Here, I'll write out just a few of the things I found that speak of it. But really, it's written in there in the Bible all over. Here it is, Luke 6:38. Give, and it shall be given unto you. Good measure, pressed down and shaken together, and running over, shall men give into your bosom. For with the same measure that ye meet, withal it shall be measured to you again. That's neat. Okay, then Proverbs 19:17. He that hath pity upon the poor lendeth unto the Lord, and that which he hath given will he pay him again. Wow. And then it says, by the way, unlike myself, the Bible doesn't capitalize he, referring to God. But I do. Okay, next is Luke 6, verse 35. But love ye your enemies, and do good, and lend, hoping for nothing again. And your reward shall be great, and ye shall be the children of the highest. For he is kind unto the unthankful and to the evil. Be like God. Be kind even if they don't deserve it. And sometimes they turn around and grow and blossom. Okay, then Romans 12:21. Be not overcome of evil, but overcome evil with good. That is few words and means a lot. And then James 5:16. The the effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. So your prayers matter, especially effectual fervent. So think of the aspects that pray about specifics and the dynamics. And fervent means warm, like you really put your heart into it. The effectual fervent prayer of a righteous man availeth much. And that's in James 5:16. Actually, that whole chapter talks about the stuff we're talking about here. And then there is that neato heavy one in Matthew chapter 25. And I do it for you. See? From there all the way down to there. And I'll read it for you because it's just too good to miss. And this is Jesus talking. And Jesus said, quote, when the Son of Man, and that was his own name for himself, when the Son of Man shall come in his glory, and all the holy angels with him, then shall he sit upon the throne of his glory, and before him shall be gathered all nations, and he shall separate them one from another, as a shepherd divideth his sheep from the goats. And he shall set the sheep on his right hand, but the goats on the left. Then shall the king say unto them on his right hand, come, ye blessed of my Father, inherit the kingdom prepared for you from the foundation of the world. For I was an hungered, and ye gave me meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me in. Naked, and ye clothed me. I was sick, and ye visited me. I was in prison, and ye came unto me. Then shall the righteous answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered and fed thee, or thirsty and gave thee drink? When saw we thee a stranger and took thee in, or naked and clothed thee? Or when saw we thee sick or in prison, and came unto thee? And the king shall answer and say unto them, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye have done it unto one of the least of these, my brethren, ye have done it unto me. Then shall he also say unto them on the left hand, Depart from me, ye cursed, into everlasting fire, prepared for the devil and his angels. For when I was an hungered, ye gave me no meat. I was thirsty, and ye gave me no drink. I was a stranger, and ye took me not in. Naked, and ye clothed me not. Sick, and in prison, and ye visited me not. Then shall they also answer him, saying, Lord, when saw we thee an hungered, or athirst, or stranger, or naked, or sick, or in prison, and did not minister unto thee? Then shall he answer them, saying, Verily I say unto you, inasmuch as ye did it not to one of the least of these, ye did it not to me. And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into life eternal. That's Matthew chapter 25, verses 31 to 46. I just got a tickle in there for nothing. Inasmuch as ye did it not to one of the least of these, ye did it not to me. And these shall go away into everlasting punishment, but the righteous into life eternal. So it matters what we do. Oh yeah, and I was looking at that one before I started this up, and I saw that, and I remembered how Keith Green, when he would do concerts and read the Bible and preach and tell them the truth. And one of them, he said, and notice that the judgment depended on what they did and didn't do. So it matters what we do. That's one big part Jesus said that makes it plain. It matters what we do. And all the nations shall be gathered before him, it said. Lord knows, Jesus gets to choose. Jesus knows our thoughts, our what we did, and what we did, we make real in our lives. I'll keep reading. See how highly Jesus speaks of visiting? And in the scriptures, we find that he even wants to visit with us personally, himself. He said so. Quote, Behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come in to him and sup with him, and he with me. End quote. That's Revelation chapter 3, verse 20. And there is even a verse, come to think of it, where Jesus speaks of water in a lot the same sense that we just talked about it. Quote, But whosoever drinketh of the water that I shall give him shall never thirst, but the water that I shall give him shall be in him a well of water springing up into everlasting life. That's John 4, verse 14. So those scriptures help us to see that we need to visit with him first, because he's where the living starts. And he gives us the water to give to others. And besides, he's where we get the real life stuff to pass on to others. And in talking with him, we ought not to forget to thank him for all this amazing life he has loaded our arms with. Looking at this list of verses, which are just the first verses I thought of, there's a lot more. I can't help but notice that they encourage a person to do more than just enough to break even. That may be significant. It appears that God doesn't just want to comfort us that he'll be sure to even things out in the end, but he goes on to challenge us and embolden us to give freely of the love and other good things in life that he has freely given to us. and that He'll be there to bless it and to grow it. Probably indeed because it falls under the category of life. And life with a capital L both times. And life is like that. You sow one seed and it comes up a whole plant with leaves and flowers and even fruit if there are bees around, and seeds too, to start up the next generation. ... It's how He has set things up to function concerning life stuff. But when we're more accustomed to the man-made side of things, where you put in a lump of raw material at one end of the machine or factory, and out comes a specific, defined, finished product of the same or lesser weight on the other end, with byproducts that you have to get rid of somehow, and with wages to pay, and mortgage payments to come up with, and energy bills to consider. And then there's no telling for sure if you'll find a buyer or appreciator for the product anyway. Then I guess it's only quote-unquote natural that we are somewhat conservative, or even very conservative, of our raw materials. But note the difference. In visiting people, you are making use of the God-given life and talents and capacities within you. It's more like soft and one of a kind and temporary, and so it is life stuff. It will therefore follow the rules of life as it grows and blossoms and multiplies. On the other hand, if you do something more tangible, say like sending a gift or fashioning a monument to that person, that has more to do with sword stuff, more like hard and flat and permanent and man-made, and so it follows those rules, sword rules, where you invest time and effort and money and hope at least to break even with an outside chance of great benefit. But if the Lord encourages you to make or do something in the sword category, then follow His leading and ask Him to help you, and ask Him to bless it and protect it, and may His will be done in it. Kind of like when Jesus and His mother Mary were at the wedding at Cana in John chapter 2. Mary told the servants, "Whatsoever He saith unto you, do it." Because she knew, I don't know if I said it here, but that's the only place where she gives a command, where she gives directives, where she gives advice. Whatever He saith unto you, do it. Because His mother knew Jesus is not your average kid, your average baby kid, grown up human being. He is completely human and completely God. Weird but wonderful that she knew, whatsoever He saith unto you, do it. Because she knew that bounty and blessings happen when you follow His directions. For quite regularly, you'll see a sword-like thing bloom like the desert when He adds His life-giving touch to it. And then in brackets I have, like when God, through Moses, brought water out of the rock. That was in Exodus chapter 17, verse 6. Or like when Aaron's rod budded. Aaron had a stick, and they called it a rod. It was because it was a thick stick, not just a twig, and not a branch exactly, but a rod. But like when God, through Moses, brought water out of the rock, or like when Aaron's rod budded in the book of Numbers, chapter 17, verses 1 through 11. Try that. Or like when the widow and her son shared their last meal in 1 Kings chapter 17, 1 through 16. Or like the abundance of the loaves and fishes when Jesus took and blessed them in Mark chapter 6 and John chapter 6. It's a miracle, but then that's how He is and how He has made life to be. Change pages. Page 23. Of course, not all the things I've mentioned here are things that cropped up in that first conversation between my daughter Bethy and I. But many of them did. And I don't know if I told you, I counted it up, she was 18 when we had that conversation. But many of them did come up in subsequent talks and considerations. But there's one more thing that Bethy and I noticed. We noticed that so many, if not all, of the great opposites appeared opposite each other in these two categories of rose and sword. Opposites such as living and non-living, soft and hard, natural and artificial, life-giving and life-taking, etc., till it seemed obvious that good and evil have some reason to be included here. Evil meaning in this case something that is generally headed away from life and health. The Bible uses the term evil a lot like that. Yet, as we've seen, things on the sword side are frequently used to the benefit of life. For whom among us could live without the existence of a shovel or a hoe or a brick or a saw or a knife or a pan to cook things in? Yet, to go on, it seems that good and evil are not so much solid items, nor even general concepts that fit into these larger categories, but rather they are terms of direction, terms of use or intention, so that the items on the list stand as implements along the roadways, while good and evil are the great crossroads signs pointing which way to go, or testifying as to which way you're heading. So in a way they stand upon and above the list, like a compass showing how the local polar magnetism reads, which way is north. It's so bright behind me. It gets a little dim if I get away, but I guess, is there any tipping it? That's not, I hope, I don't think. I'll put it back, I think. I got this sort of a stand that it's sitting on. Okay. It seems also that there are other things that stand above the list, as life and goodness and reality seem to stand above the list, as I mentioned earlier. Furthermore, we humans, it seems, stand apart from the list, as our bodies are definitely among the created, living, perishable, soft, warm, one-of-a-kind things. And as we have a soul, an eternal part, that has the ability to use things on both sides of the list to support and promote life, or to go in the opposite direction and to neglect life, or even destroy life, or to harden our own arteries or our own hearts, so to speak, by using things on both sides of the list in the direction of overall death. This, quite obviously, is one grand subject, and more could be said about life and growth and life eternal. But let us give the credit to God for having made all this and for having shared not just the basic reality of it with us, but for letting us go on to perceive it with our senses and to build models of it in our minds and to understand something of the nature of these things. He's helped us think and care, feel enough to keep working, choose what to think and what to keep considering. Because if we didn't care, we wouldn't keep trying and it wouldn't come on to make sense. You know, I think that is one of the biggest and most amazing things we've talked about so far, that we have the capacity to study. Look, I go ahead and tell about it. And just think what all it takes to be able to study, or even to consider such things as these. What a creator to build into us the wherewithal to comprehend the invisible, to see concepts in our minds, and to see them in a solid and functional way. Wow! How did he do that? How did he enable minds, which are physical, to comprehend and manipulate things that are entirely intangible? That means untouchable. It kind of reminds me of that poem, The Tiger, by William Blake, especially where it says, oh, can I find it? Can I recite it? Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, What immortal hand or eye could frame thy fearful symmetry? In what distant deeps or skies burnt the fire of thine eyes? On what wings dare he aspire? What the hand dare seize the fire? And what knowledge? And what art? And what hand and what art could twist the sinews of thy heart? And when thy heart began to beat, what dread hand and what dread feet? What the anvil? What the chain? In what furnace was thy brain? What dread grasp dare its deadly terrors clasp? And when the stars threw down their spears, like theirs, and watered heaven with their tears, like, oh dear, he made a lion, a tiger, and watered heaven with their tears, did he smile his work to see? Did he who made the lamb make thee? Tiger, tiger, burning bright in the forests of the night, what immortal hand or eye dare frame thy fearful symmetry? And that's the end of the poem. Now I've missed a couple words in there. I believe it's Tiger, Tiger by William Blake. So I'd almost pause it and go look on my poem books, but I better just keep going. Maybe I could do that at the end here. I'm not sure. But it kind of reminds me of that poem, The Tiger, by William Blake, especially where it says, in what furnace was thy brain? What did God use to construct our mental capacities? What skills? I mean, even a tiger has how to get there. Will I get there in time to catch my next meal or find a resting spot? He has a brain. What did God use to construct our mental capacities? What skills? What equipment? How did he get matter to hold ideas? And I don't just mean information like a computer, but full dimensional ideas with depth and feelings and moods and memories of scents and colors and flavors and projections of possibilities. Really, you even have to think ahead in time, like all this stuff, but what? And projections of possibilities. And that's where where did it start? Oh, that was one long sentence from the bracket to the bracket. And I'm done with that bracket. That was, and I don't just mean information like a computer, but full dimensional ideas with depth and feelings and moods and memories of scents and colors and flavors and projections of possibilities, ... end bracket. Which reminds me of something someone told me a long time ago. What's that? I haven't read this essay in a while, although I know all the concepts and I remember them, but what am I going to say next? I once met a man who came to believe in God. I know this just because in his medical training, thing is that he wanted to know how sight worked. And so he went on to take medical training because he wanted to know, how does this work? And then in his medical training, he came to realize that no medical research can explain physical sight. That is, how come light can bounce off an object out there, then enter as waves of energy through a gelatinous ball, that is our eye, proceed on to affect our sensors and nerve complexes by way of chemistry and electricity, and come together again into a unified, recognizable picture in our minds, so that the real-time scene before us makes sense within us, and makes sense in such detail as takes your breath away if you really stop to consider it, to comprehend it. The degrees of color, the number of pixels per frame per second, the accuracy of our perception of distance and of depth and of texture. But now try to figure out how come you and I can see a landscape of history played before our mind's eye. And how come you and I can see, for instance, how competition can motivate a man? And how come we can see the beauty of health and truth and other things that lead to life? And even if someone insists that no sight of any kind is involved in these things, still they are realities that are perceivable as whole functioning units with definite boundaries and having specific dynamics and definite weight and even texture and heat, possibly color. I didn't put that there. They are compound and cohesive and can be measured and examined mentally. They are definite things like health and truth and history. They are definite things, and we can picture them. Remarkable. And furthermore, please tell me, how do so many large-scale, or rather enormous-scale, realities come to fit inside such small craniums? And how, within one individual, do myriads of mental images taken through oodles of sensitive receivers and projected onto one incredibly versatile mental screen give us a kind of cognitive image and sight by which we comprehend reality, and then proceed to swim our way through that reality by way of choices and actions and interactions with people and things and companies and concepts, which processes we normally don't even bother to think about, much less stop to be grateful for. And never do we think of writing out a thank you card to our Creator about it all. We ought to, though, don't you think? I wrote that, don't you think? Wow. And okay, not a card, a prayer. Thank you, God. I've got a mind. Oh, thank you, God. Wow. There is something major going on here in our minds and on this planet, and we're each a part of it. And all because of His grace in allowing us to get in on the eternal side of things. Wow again. Thank you, dear God. Thank you. Come to think of it, the Bible speaks somewhat of these things. Quote, "For by Him were all things created, that are in heaven and that are in earth, visible and invisible, whether they be thrones or dominions, or principalities or powers. All things were created by Him and for Him, and He is before all things, and by Him all things consist." End quote. That's found in Colossians chapter 1, verses 16 and 17. And in the book of Romans, Paul states, quote, "Oh, the depth of the riches, both of the wisdom and knowledge of God. How unsearchable are His judgments, and His ways past finding out. For who hath known the mind of the Lord? Or who hath been His counselor? Or who hath first given to Him, and it shall be recompensed unto him again?" Like God is indebted to some man? For of Him, of God, of Him and through Him and to Him are all things, to whom be glory forever. Amen. That's Romans chapter 11, verses 33 to 36. To be sure, and mind you guys, one chapter usually fits on 1 or 2 pages, sometimes 3 pages. It's not like a novel where if you say chapter 3, it's going to be 10 pages long. They're short, but they're so important, all the truths, that's why they put numbers on them. To be sure, our ability to see with our minds has got to be one of the finest capacities on earth. And maybe that's why God got so mad at images back in the Old Testament. I've wondered about that for a long time. How come he got so mad at idolatry? Okay. Guys, I think I'm 35. I think I'll leave it at that for here because it's another section, different kind of section. So I'll leave it at that. 35. Thank you. Bye.